So it was pretty evident that Nintendo would be ramping down support for the Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U consoles whenever they announced that the eShops would be officially shutting down for new software purchases, meaning if you're somebody who's already bought games on the store, of course you can re-download them for the foreseeable future, but you are now at a point in time where if you don't already have the game purchased, you can do so no longer. Well, interestingly, we recently got a brand new Nintendo system firmware update for the 3DS, and there is a specific reason behind this, in addition to the announcement of Nintendo ramping down service repairs in Japan. And in today's video, I want to get on the same page with exactly what to look out for if you're a fan or own either one of these consoles or plan to in the near future, and we need to get on the same page with all of these details right now. What's up, nation? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you haven't already. And as mentioned, guys, today we were discussing the 3DS and Wii U alike because both of these systems have different updates that have been announced recently, and they both kind of signal more and more of Nintendo signaling the end for any kind of support of these consoles. And of course, it's hard to believe that they're just the last generation consoles before the Nintendo Switch was out. And they really didn't have that much long ongoing support, considering that the Wii U launched in November 18th of 2012 and the 3DS hitting in 2011. So we're talking 11 and 12 years old from when those consoles were released at this point in time. But now we're seeing, of course, the discontinuation of the eShop, which has already come and gone. You can't buy new games anymore unless if you already have them in your library. You can, of course, re-download them. And then you have a couple different brand new updates that were announced that signal Nintendo's broader plans to continue to shut down support for these consoles on a broad scale, one of which has to do with more of what you want to do with your console if you want to potentially find a way to add games onto it in the future. But first, we are tackling the Wii U, and the Wii U is one that I have a ton of nostalgia for myself. I still own one today and sometimes boot it up. And one interesting issue with the Nintendo Wii U is that you may have seen a bunch of different reports that if you don't use your Wii U for a certain number of days, weeks, months, or years, that there is something that can tend to happen to the memory within this console. And I'm not going to claim to understand the exact details of what goes wrong myself. If you know, feel free to say so in the comments and outline what really happens here. But it seems that there is a chance that as these consoles go unused for longer and longer, that you might try to boot up your system at one date in the future, and it just will not boot because something with the memory has become corrupted, and it doesn't seem like the easiest fix, or that there is a easy workaround for it at this time. Now, up to this point in time, you've been able to fairly reliably expect Nintendo to repair your consoles as long as they still have the components for it, and that's where announcement number one comes into play, because you can see the following article over on Nintendo Everything, which reads as follows: Wii U repair parts coming to an end in Japan. It's another nail in the coffin for the Wii U today, with Nintendo announcing that the company is ending repairs soon in Japan. In a notice posted to the official website, it stated that it will no longer be taking requests for repairs. This applies to the main console as well as accessories. Components needed for repairs have run out, so the ability to fix the Wii U related devices is becoming difficult. Nintendo hasn't actually posted an official end date, it's merely based on when the stock of spare parts has run out. Nintendo states it will end repairs of consoles and accessories at the same time unless it runs out of parts for them first. System owners that are thinking about asking for a repair are advised to do so as soon as possible. For now, Nintendo has only announced that Wii U repairs will be ending in Japan. However, it's thought that other parts of the world could wind down operations as well. We'll keep you updated if we hear anything officially, but fans outside of Japan with a need for repairs may also want to get that taken care of soon. Now this one, while it's a bad news scenario, it's not something that you can really point the finger at Nintendo for, because the reality is as components start to become more and more sparse for this Wii U console that launched in 2012, Nintendo will naturally not have the inventory to continue to order parts and continue to replace them in the consoles firsthand. There will be third-party ways to get it done, more than likely. There will also be an inventory of third-party resell supplies online, so if you really want to repair a Wii U, you can probably find a way to do it yourself, or you can track down a different older used console and get it up and running that way. It does seem like the gamepad will probably be the hardest thing to find as time goes on, because a lot of those have broken or been lost over the course of time, and there's definitely a plethora of consoles, whereas gamepads are becoming the more expensive item if you are trying to get into a Wii U for the first time. But be advised, it's only for Japan right now. If you are somebody who is needing a Wii U professionally repaired by Nintendo, get the request sent in now, because it doesn't seem like it will take a long time. If Nintendo is announcing this in Japan, that they will likely have to ramp down in all other portions of the world. Now, when it comes to the 3DS side of things, you may have seen recently a system firmware update for a new Nintendo console going around online, and you may realize it's not the Nintendo Switch, although the last few Nintendo Switch updates we've seen have been nothing other than just general stability improvement updates. This one also claims to be that, but it is for the 3DS, and it's always surprising and makes people look twice when an old console that isn't being sold actively from Nintendo anymore mysteriously receives a system firmware upgrade. Now, this of course is after the date that you can't purchase games on the eShop anymore, and you may logically expect some fans who are retro collectors or who just want to have backups of their physical libraries or build out their libraries of games that cannot be purchased any longer. They may go that modification route that many console owners have already done, and that is something that soon will be more difficult in light of this most recent update, as you can see Oatmeal Dome's post over on Twitter that really explains the real reason behind the most recent patch. Where first he says Nintendo 3DS firmware update version 11.17.0-50 was released for all regions. The patch notes only contain the usual stability line. According to 8bot, system settings, eShop app, and internet browser were updated. For US region 3DSs, the home menu was also updated. Now, in a follow-up to that tweet, he breaks down the real reason for it, where he says, judging by the reports I've been seeing from the 3DS homebrew community, it looks like Nintendo patched the Banner Bomb 3 exploit in the 11.17.0-50. This is why the system settings were updated. Now, then replying to a fan question that's asking what this is, he replies, it's an exploit that was used as part of the process to install custom firmware. Now, there may be different methods out there in terms of modding your system and getting it to run custom firmware and homebrew applications, but to my knowledge, this is definitely one of the more popular methods out there, which could signify that Nintendo is on the hunt essentially to end custom 3DS firmware modification, and essentially they're trying to stop gamers from customizing the system and be able to, and they're doing it retroactively for a console that's not their primary focus anymore. So again, if you're somebody who's going to track down a 3DS in the future, it may have already been updated to this firmware and you may not be able to get your custom games to run as easily, and that's an unfortunate situation to see, especially considering that, again, there is not currently an option to purchase the games for the system when it comes to an eShop perspective. That is the one big downside of the digital era that we are transitioning to. I will always buy physical as long as it's available. I fully get the convenience factor behind owning your games digitally. It is a lot nicer to not have to worry about where the cartridges are at and be able to swap between games seamlessly. And to be fair, even physical options are becoming less attractive because a lot of times the whole game is not on the cartridge, or you have a massive day one patch that you really need to experience the game in full quality. As soon as you have to download something from the internet to experience your game, or be able to check in online with servers to experience your game, you are inherently at a risk for this type of day to come. Right now, it doesn't seem like a big deal with the last generation consoles that are just a little over 10 years old, but just 5 years from now, the Nintendo Switch will technically be as old as the 3DS, and that is kind of a scary scenario to think that we might see Nintendo ramp down eShop support in a big way on the console that we know and love today. And if you had a bunch of indie titles that you could only purchase from the eShop that were your favorite games, and then they're all gone and you don't have your same Switch because it broke, or the memory got corrupted, or whatever the situation is, you could very well find yourself in a situation where you cannot play the games that you grew up with or that you know and love. And that's a scary scenario to be in for someone like me that really values having a large library of retro games that I grew up with and that I enjoy playing. And naturally, with each console generation, I make new favorites. So here's hoping that you can still play all the games that you remember and know and love from the 3DS and Wii U for the foreseeable future. Here's hoping Nintendo ports many games over to future platforms. And I also hope that Nintendo has a better process with the Switch when it comes to them ultimately one day shutting down those eShop servers that I naturally would expect to happen at some point in the next 5 to 10 years. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions on both the different recent announcements surrounding the Wii U and the 3DS. Share with me your nostalgia for these consoles overall. Are you somebody that has a large library of games and you still boot them up from time to time today? Or are you somebody who missed out on these classic Nintendo systems, and do you ever plan to pick them up in the future if that is you? Are you surprised to hear the fact that Nintendo is ramping down support for repairs for the Wii U? And do you think that Nintendo made the right call here, patching out the ability to do custom firmware for their 3DS after the eShop has been shut down? Or are you like me and you kind of feel like if you're going to discontinue the servers and not give people an option to purchase the games anymore, what does it matter what they want to do with one of your older consoles that's not even your active revenue generating device? But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.